Hey there, Carl Kishel here, and welcome to this week's edition of the Microsoft Cloud News Update, researching the cloud blog so you don't have to. So this week, we have a couple of items to review with you. First, I want to talk about some tamper protection, Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. Continuing with Endpoint Manager for Microsoft is some new enhancements regarding macOS, Microsoft 365 Patterns and Practices Review, Reading Progress Update in Microsoft Teams. This will be for the Education Edition of Microsoft Teams, and Power Apps Community Call updates, and a couple other items as well. With that, let's jump into this week's updates. Links to all the updates that I'll be covering can be found in the description of this video. So update number 1, regarding tamper protection. So some of you might be familiar with Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, or MDE, and the ability to turn on tamper protection. If so, that's great. If not, please listen up. Tamper protection, a really useful feature. You may or may not be aware of it. So some things you can do with tamper protection when it's enabled. Really what you're doing is protecting your end users, your devices, and your community. And this is by disabling virus and threat protection. So you're preventing an end user from turning off virus and endpoint protection, preventing the end user from disabling real-time protection, turning off behavior monitoring, so on and so forth. So all the complete list here is in the description of this blog post. And as we scroll further down, you'll see some additional artifacts and links on Microsoft Endpoint Protection and how to turn on tamper protection. Some items here are what's new with Microsoft Endpoint Manager, August edition. So wanted to highlight, I think, one of the more important updates here regarding Endpoint Manager is some new Mac OS management capabilities, and specifically with the ability to review and edit app detection logic. So up until this point, using Endpoint Manager for macOS and getting the telemetry around app detection, whether or not an app was fully deployed, if it failed, if it's pending, or really understanding the state of application deployment, specifically also for line of business applications, so not just off-the-shelf, quote-unquote, applications. So a lot of new enhancements regarding endpoint management and devices that are running Mac OS. As you scroll through this particular update, you'll see a video and some other items on how to enable this feature and dig a little bit deeper into the new Mac OS device capabilities of Endpoint Manager. Some of you might be familiar with the Patterns and Practices community. This is a very active community on the Microsoft Tech blogs. And this specific community, and this update specifically, I should say, is a nice collection of all the community webinars that have been presented throughout July and August. A lot of nice details here, and for me, one of the ones I found that was the most useful was actually this first one here, Introduction to Microsoft Teams Toolkit version 2. If you click on that, it's actually a YouTube video, and have this particular screenshot here frozen. Nice overview of what's available in Toolkit from version 1 through version 2 and all the new enhancements, which include front-end hosting, some integration with Azure functions, support for Azure SQL, command line interface, and much, much more, including automatic tunneling. Is actually really helpful new feature regarding the toolkit. So definitely check out this video. It's about 14 minutes long, and check out the new version of the Microsoft Teams Toolkit. A new feature called Reading Progress for Microsoft Teams, all about improving student reading, their fluency, is now rolling out to Microsoft Teams globally. So we'll call this out that this is specifically for education tenants. So if you have a Microsoft or an Office 365 tenant and running Teams, you do have to be a qualified academic institution to be able to take advantage of this. But the reading progress is basically facility built into Microsoft Teams that allows a student to dictate or read a particular series of paragraphs, story, etc. Then using the AI capabilities and the analytics capabilities of Microsoft Teams, provide some feedback on how well that student's doing with their fluency and their reading. So in this example here pretty much gives you an overview for this example of the number of mispronunciations, omissions, self-corrections, insertions, repetitions, etc. So really neat feature for those of you who are into education and are leveraging Microsoft Teams in the classroom. Even if you're not, this is part of the Microsoft Teams ecosystem. Scrolling through here, you'll know that this feature is part of the Education Progress Center within Microsoft Teams. So check out this link for more info on how to use this new feature to its fullest extent. Power Apps Community Call Summary for August 2021. So another community update regarding the Microsoft Power Platform and honing in on the Power Apps, which is a low-code way to create applications within your environment organization. So a lot of neat updates here regarding specific examples on how to use the Power App Platform. And there are 3 demos here around performance insights, event calendar, and the event calendar Power App. Nice facility to auto-populate events for the current user in the calendar. A nice game demo as part of the video series here. All the references, links to GitHub for the code, and step-by-step instructions are all in this blog post. And last but not least, we have a DevOps primer, part 1. And this is really an overview around DevOps in general, and also specifically Azure DevOps, the Azure DevOps platform. So it talks about an overview of the development process using Azure boards, develop, deliver, operate, etc. The continuous integration and continuous delivery methodologies, version control, etc. The one thing I do want to call out that you may or may not be aware of as part of the Azure DevOps offering, something called Azure Boards. And basically, Azure Boards provides native support for Kanban and Scrum reporting tools and dashboards. So if you're into the whole Kanban methodology of keeping track of tasks and communicating those task statuses with individual project members, that is all built into the Azure DevOps platform and Azure Boards, and allows you to slide those cards and tasks across the life cycle and the timeline of a particular app dev project. So that's part of the platform, something you can check out today. That concludes this edition of the Microsoft Cloud News Update. Thank you so much for joining us this week. If you enjoyed what you saw, give me a thumbs up. If you'd like to stay involved in everything we do here, click on subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you're up to date when we publish these updates, which is roughly once a week. If you have any feedback or comments, I read all the comments. You can also reach out to me with any feedback on either LinkedIn or Twitter at carlkishel, CARLKISHEL. So with that, appreciate your time this week. I wish you well, and we will catch you next time. Take care.